Hey guys, it's Mrs. Goxton here. This is our hand sewing lesson. Woo! Oh, my nails look like poop. Oh well. So this is our hand sewing lesson, and today I'm going to show you how to do this. You're going to have the next 2 classes to work on this. Part of today, once we're done talking, and part of tomorrow, or next class, or all of next class. And then after that, we will start our machine threading. So, as you'll see on your piece of fabric, you're going to need 4 things. 2 stitches at the top, one of them is the running stitch, one of them is the back stitch, the overhand stitch on the side, a button in the middle, and your name on the bottom right corner. So the things you're going to need to do this are as follows: a piece of fabric, a Sharpie marker, a pair of scissors, a sewing needle, and some thread. Now, I'm going to be using different size needle and thread than you will. The reason for that is mine needs to be seen on the screen, and if I were to use normal thread, it wouldn't be visible. So here's what I'm going to show you how to do. First of all, as you can see on this, the running stitch and the back stitch look exactly the same on the front. Well, they're actually not. If you look on the back, you can see that the running stitch is like one long consistent line, and the back stitch looks the same as it does on the front. We're going to learn how to do both of those. You will need multiple things, like I said. What you're going to do first is we're going to show you how to thread the needle. Now, my needle is much larger than yours. Yours is quite tiny, and the eye of your needle is very difficult to see. You'll get used to it. So, the amount of thread you need, you want to double that. So I usually say about from fingertip to fingertip. Then you want to cut it with your scissors and make sure it's a nice, neat cut. Now, when threading your needle, you don't want to just take the thread and try to push it through the needle hole. That doesn't work. The thread is mushy. It doesn't, go through easily. Instead, what you want to do is you want to hold your thread very close to the end. Then you want to take your needle and you want to hold your needle like this, facing you, and you want to push the thread through the eye of the needle. And it might take a couple tries because your thread might, stab myself with a needle. Excellent. Don't do that. Now, if you're having trouble, you can always wet the end. You can cut it so that it's neater. You can hold it closer to the end, and once you get it through the needle, the hole of the needle, like that, you're going to take it and you're going to double your thread. Now, this is the first part where people tend to have troubles. Once you've doubled your thread, you want to make sure both ends are together at the bottom. And then you want to hold the 2 ends together as if they were one. So like this. Now, you're going to tie a knot with these 2 pieces of thread. I do not want you to take the 2 separate and tie a knot and then have the knot up by the needle. That's not helpful. What you're going to do instead is make a loop, put the tail through the loop, or I can fail at it because I'm demonstrating for the camera. Put a loop, put the tail through the loop, and pull. Now, if that knot's not big enough to keep it from going through the fabric, what you can do is you can take the 2 tails and tie them this way to make it bigger. Once you've done that a few times, it should work. Now, the first stitch we need to learn how to do is the running stitch. And as you can see from our example, the running stitch is at the top. The running stitch is really easy. All you're going to do is go up and down through the fabric. So I figure out which side is my back, and that's the side my needle starts on. So I'm going to start over here, go up through the fabric, pull the thread all the way, and then go down next to it. Now you want to keep your stitches small. You don't want them really big, and you want them fairly close together. So it will take a little bit of time. If they're too far apart and too big, you will not get the marks for it. So I see I've got that there. I come up about half a centimeter away, and then I go down. And I try to stay as straight as possible, but it's not a requirement. Now, one thing you want to make sure when you're doing this is that your needle is always coming up on the right side of the thread. So you'll see when I'm holding my fabric, I hold it between 2 fingers to keep it nice and taut. If my thread is on the top part of my fabric like it is here, your needle needs to be on that side as well. Because if I were to try to come up, I'd make a mistake because the thread would be going over the side, which is something we're going to learn how to do later. Go up, down, and then up. And you would keep going till you get the end of your fabric, which I'm not going to do because I'd like to show you the next stitch. Now, how I end this is I make sure my needle is on the back. I take my scissors and I cut a fairly long piece of string at the bottom. The reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to take those two ends, making sure my thread isn't too tight, so tight that it buckles the fabric. Take those two ends and tie a knot. Just like this. Knot. And then I'm going to do it again because I can. And then I'm going to trim the ends. Excellent. Then I either have to rethread my needle or I can take what's left over, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make another knot. Done. And I'm going to show you the back stitch. Now pay attention. For the back stitch, we're going to be going backwards. So instead of starting here, close to the front, I'm going to start here. So I'm going to come up one space away from where I normally would. And then instead of going forwards, I come backwards. Pull the needle through. Now, instead of coming up close to this end, I'm going to come up over here. Pull it through. I'm going to go backwards. Okay, next, instead of coming up here, where I would come up, I come up over here. And I'm going to go backwards. I think you guys get it. One more time. Instead of coming up over here, I'm going to come up over here, pull the thread through, and go backwards. I'll do it one last time. I come up over here, pull the thread through, go backwards, pull the thread through. Ending it is exactly the same as it was before, but before we do that, let's take a look at our back. You can see the back is different than the front. Now, we're going to take the scissors, we're going to cut a tail, we're going to take those two ends and separate them, and we're going to tie a knot, or two actually. Now I'm going to show you one more stitch, and then I'm going to show you how to put on a button, and that'll be everything. So I will continue to use this thread because I am not using a lot of it at once because I'm just doing a sample. However, I would suggest that you probably at this point will be rethreading your needle. So I make my knots. I go to the edge of my fabric. Now this one is completely different than what we've done in the past because your needle is always coming up from the back. You're going to go over the side and go up from the back. Now you don't want to pull it so tight that your fabric curls, so you want to hold it. The needle comes up from the back, go around, needle comes up from the back, around, needle comes up from the back, around, needle comes up from the back. This one's easy. Now, my fabric is a little curled, but I can sort of, fix that. Once you're done, you make a little stitch so that your needle is on the back, and you finish it the same way you've been finishing all your other pieces. With the two tails, knot it, and you're good. I'm not going to do it because you've seen it already. Now the last thing you're going to do is your button. You want a button with 4 holes. You do not want a button with 2 holes. I will be marking a button with 4 holes. So you need to make sure that when you grab a button, you grab one that has 4 holes in it. I have my buttons here because I forgot to take one out. And I'm going to take one with 4 holes. This pink one here. So what you do is you go to the front of your fabric, and you place your button where you want it. And the way you do the button is as if it's an X. You're going to come up this hole, go down that one. Do that twice, and then do the opposite. So I take my needle, I come up a hole, and then instead of going to beside, I'm going to go across, and I'm going to go down. I'm going to do that again, come up that hole, make it nice and secure, go down, and then I do the one beside it. Up that hole, go down, and if I had enough thread I would do it again, but I'm actually running out of thread at this point. So then on the back, the way to secure it is you want to take your needle and go through the stitches you made. Like that. Cut it. And you know how to do this. Take the two ends, tie them together. All right, now it's your turn. So if you have any questions, I will be wandering around the room helping people. Please have patience. There are between 24 and 32 of you and only one of me. So thank you for watching the video. Let's get started.